All right, back again on the CA podcast. We're actually recording this on a early Wednesday morning, as I got a little caught up with that U.S. Open or the World Cup soccer match last night. Didn't really have time to do it before I got home. So, all right, and normally we'll look at trades. We'll do like a pretty brief analysis of each trade, but obviously this past week was the keeper deadline. I guess, for most of us it was a deadline. I suppose some of us found different ways of working around that. But I'm going to go kind of trade by trade here, all the trades that involved auction dollars that took place here at the deadline. The subject last week on the during my little editorial was whether or not to buy or sell, and it turns out that we had a pretty high number of both motivated buyers and sellers. There was a flurry of action before the deadline. So here's a brief summary. A couple days back, Oaks traded Aaron Rodgers and Cam Newton to Deutsch for Frank Gore, Jake Locker, and 90 auction dollars. So this was really the first big sellout trade. Oaks had made his intentions clear. Deutsch was the first owner to really take a stab at buying a championship. So far, so good for him. I think Oaks got pretty fair value here, though, especially because Cam Newton's having kind of a slow season. So Oaks was able to get back Locker, who has decent keeper value, and obviously a huge chunk of auction dollars for next year. Oaks' second big sellout trade was giving Arian Foster, Adrian Peterson, Vernon Davis, and Eric Decker to Ariel, who gave up A.J. Green and then a bunch of scrubs, Hawkins, the Seahawks, Blair Walsh, nothing, and then 43 auction dollars. So I think this trade was an absolute steal for Oaks. Not only did he get to the maximum auction dollars for 2013, but he walks into arguably the best keeper in the league in A.J. Green. He's got a 2-year deal for $11 this year and $16 next year, and so that price for a top 3 wide receiver is pretty crazy. Ariel obviously got a pretty fair bit in return. The key to the deal being Arian Foster, who's the best player in fantasy football. Ariel made the most obvious declaration that he's playing for a 2012 championship as he gave A.J. Green back to Oaks. Let's not forget that last year around this time, Ariel initiated a white flag trade in giving up on his 2011 season to acquire Ryan Matthews and A.J. Green, both of which are not on his team anymore. All right, another big trade. Bootsy gave up Bootsy gave up RG3 and Victor Cruz to get Ryan Matthews, Aaron Hernandez, Eric Decker, Alex Smith, and 12 auction dollars. This trade really was when things got kind of crazy. Oaks' sellout trades had featured some serious value-changing hands, but both parties were kind of walking away happy. Bootsy, in my mind, got absolutely ripped off in this trade. RG3 is, $52, perhaps right behind Andrew Luck and A.J. Green as the best 2013 keeper. Bootsy shipped him and Cruz, who, by the way, has, kind of some solid keeper value himself, at only $37. He shipped them to Ariel for essentially Ryan Matthews, Hernandez, Decker, and a pretty paltry sum of auction dollars. If you're going to mortgage your future for a championship, Bootsy, I would at least make sure that you're buying the right parts. Bootsy kind of got Matthews at his absolute highest selling point and sold RG3 at what appears to be his lowest. This trade allows Ariel to fortify for next year despite a lower auction budget and also be one of the front runners for a title this season. So this trade was a serious win, not only for Ariel but for the Jewish people. Justin traded Larry Fitzgerald to Kraus and got back Deshaun Jackson, Mikel Leshore, and 5 auction dollars. I saw this as somewhat of a win for Justin. Fitzgerald is solid and reliable. The QB situation in Arizona is ugly. It has been all year. Their O-line is one of the worst in the league. Deshaun Jackson kind of sucks, but Leshore has really good upside, great keeper value. The 5 auction dollars Justin's getting in the deal could really make Leshore almost free to keep next year. Next trade, I trade 45 auction dollars to Deutsch straight up for Darren McFadden. This trade actually was born from a few failed negotiations with the Deutsch family. I originally had intended to ship Reggie Bush and 20 auction dollars to Justin for Matt Forte, a deal that I happily would have done and proposed after a bit of negotiating. However, Justin was busy doing like an elephant walk or being waterboarded or something, so he stopped responding to texts and emails. I complained to his brother Brian the next day, whereupon we began our own negotiations for Reggie and $25 for Darren McFadden. Deutsch, while under the guise of deliberating, traded Josh Freeman to his brother straight up for Sproles, and therefore kind of backing out of our deal to acquire an additional running back. After discussing things a little bit further, Deutsch offered just to sell me McFadden straight up for cash, and I bought it. My biggest issue all year has been running back depth, so I needed McFadden to kind of shore up the position. Now I have 3 top 20 backs. I'm in shape to compete with Kraus for a division title. No question, $45 is a big chunk of change, but I'm keeping Luck next year for $46. I think he would have been drafted for probably around 80, and if you add the value I'm keeping in Demaryius Thomas, then there's your 45 auction dollars right there. So that was my thinking. It remains to be seen if it's going to pay off. Ariel traded Stephen Ridley to Billy for $30 auction dollars. This trade seemed just completely retarded and still does. Ridley, has been pretty good this year, but is inconsistent. He has fumbling issues. Furthermore, he plays for Bill Belichick, who is second only to Mike Shanahan in fantasy running back shittiness. $30 auction dollars is a lot of cash for a running back, too, that you can't really rely on. Running backs that were drafted for $30 or less this year: C.J. Spiller, Willis McGahee, Fred Jackson, Reggie Bush, Ben Jarvis, and a high number of other cheaper sleeper options. So I think Billy dramatically overpaid, essentially threw away $30. And then, of course, we get to the trade. Kraus trades DeMarco Murray and $10 to Justin for Maurice Jones-Drew. Initially, I didn't really understand what the problem was. I totally sided with Kraus. I didn't realize that we had a deadline for trading auction dollars. I don't know why I didn't think of that. I thought it was just the players involved, the fact that Murray had already played, and that was why he couldn't do the trade. But, breaking the trade up into 2 parts is legal. It's a passable loophole. Kind of as with most loopholes, it's slightly underhanded and spits in the face of the letter of the law, but nonetheless allowable. I think our fair commissioner made the right call. Actually, just got done reading his statement from last night. I think he's made the right call again. It's kind of a one-off situation. Should have been allowed. We will democratically solve this issue through the proper channels. I don't think it's right to hold Oaks to every snap judgment he makes. Commissioner of this league is an unenviable task. It's not easy. Oaks, I think, did what he thought was right at the time. He's handled it well in the aftermath. Kraus's insistence that the separate transactions were in fact separate was based pretty much solely on the direction he had received from Oaks. So, there was a fair bit of confusion there. I don't think Maurice Jones-Drew is going to do much more than what he's currently putting up, so I'm not sweating this trade too much. It's just important that we establish firm deadlines for trades moving forward. Perhaps, I know it had been discussed, but also some type of, in-season judicial board or something like that to rule on these matters. So it shouldn't be incumbent on just one man, as it's obviously far too great of a responsibility. All right, winners and losers at the trade deadline. To me, it was fairly clear. There's a couple of undecideds, but I would say big winners, Oaks and Ariel. Oaks was able to complete his boyhood dream and sell fun for money. He is officially building for 2013. Despite a big Week 6 performance from his pathetic group of scrubs, he'll obviously finish towards the bottom of the league. But he'll be entering next year with A.J. Green and $378 auction dollars in really a fantastic position to succeed. Ariel was clearly the biggest buyer at the trade deadline, but through a little bit of wheeling and dealing with Billy, was able to recover some of his spent auction dollars and still has a respectable $258 for next season. And the losers, I thought, was relatively clear as well. Billy and Bootsy. Billy just wasted $30 on Ridley, who's his third running back, and got outscored by Billy's other bench options this week. And then Bootsy, did receive some compensation, but really is now locked into keeping Matthews or Eric Decker, as he lost out on RG3. It's a quarterback-driven league, so it doesn't really strike me as a winning proposition. And then undecided, I would say Brian Deutsch. Obviously Deutsch was a buyer. I think he made some good moves. His team, looks pretty good on paper, but he really needs Cam Newton to get better. Newton's had a pretty slow season. He better be hoping that bye week could make a difference. And then another undecided, myself. I need to see value in Darren McFadden. If McFadden sucks, then it was a total waste, and I threw away $45. And then undecided, Kraus. Didn't really change his team too much at the deadline, except when he picked up Maurice Jones-Drew, which, as we all know, was after the deadline. All right, on to the power rankings. Back at number 12, Justin Deutsch. Justin's losing streak runs to 10 in a row as he put up a pretty pitiful 66.5 points this week. He really didn't make too much of an effort to sell out for next year and kind of seems to be attempting to pull his team out of a nosedive, so good luck with that, kid. In at number 11, Andy Oaks. I don't care that he's first in our division. I don't care that he's third in the league in total points. His team is pathetic, and despite a one-week aberration, will be terrible moving forward. His starting duo of Whedon and Tannehill are pretty lame. James Jones will not be catching 2 touchdowns touchdowns in every game this season. And now that he's sold Foster, AP, Newton, Rogers, Gore, and Eric Decker for straight cash and A.J. Green, his team obviously is bound to fail in 2012. Number 10, Billy. Billy was not only smacked down by Bootsy and Plotzker this past week, but also blew a ton of cash in the trade market. He's at the bottom of a tough division, looking way up. And at number 9, Denenberg. He's still currently in second place in his division. D has lost 5 in a row and is lacking a serious edge in total points. New addition William Powell looks somewhat legit, but a good running back is not going to make Denenberg's quarterbacks any less terrible. Romo and Flacco are just, guys that are up and down and pretty unreliable. Number 8, John Kraus. Kraus conned his way into Mojo Drew, a move that he had to make as the Murray injury would have left the cupboard bare at running back. He still finds himself in last place in the Lane Bryant division and actually hasn't won a matchup since week 4. So he has some work to do. Number 7, Ben. Ben has a good team and channeled his brother in getting a little unlucky this week. Trent Richardson injury makes me kind of nervous about Ben's prospects, however, as he's pretty thin at running back, other than obviously having LaShawn McCoy. But if Richardson's out, it's pretty ugly past that. Number 6, Jason Plotzker. Plotzker had a really big week while feasting on some pretty lame competition. For a moment, he's actually in second place in the Lane Bryant division, despite the fact that he is last in the division in total points. Honestly, it's the same story all year. If Vic can limit the turnovers and keep hitting Macklin for those bomb TDs, Plotzker's team is obviously a threat down the stretch. Number 5, myself. Despite fortifying my team by adding Darren McFadden, I still went 0-2 on the weekend. Luck just had a terrible fantasy debut for me. Brady was good. I just couldn't overcome slow games from Reggie Bush and Marshawn Lynch for whatever reason. I'll need to bounce back next few weeks or risk turning my McFadden acquisition into a total waste. And at number 4, Bootsy. Bootsy stepped his game up from last week and went 2-0 in the weekend. Still sits in first place in a tough division despite having the third lowest point total. And now that he's shipped away RG3, he desperately needs to win now. Does kind of look like the wild card will be coming out of the Shame of Sherwood division, so I think he has a better shot there. Smith, in at number 3, had a great week. Only went 1-1 because he ran into the buzzsaw that is Brian Deutsch's new team. Kevin Cobb getting injured is a blow to Smith's chances, but does have Carson Palmer on the bench, so it should be in pretty good shape as far as that is concerned. Number 2, Deutsch. One of the biggest jumps in power rankings history. Brian jumps from 10th to 2nd. He won back-to-back weekly high points, which I don't recall the last time that had been done. I'm sure Ted probably did it last year. Deutsch has kind of served notice that after 4 long years, his time has come. Newton coming back from the bye really is Brian's best shot at taking over the top spot in the power rankings. Who is occupying that top spot? The same person that was occupying it last week, although a totally different team, Ariel. Ariel is leading the league in total points. He's won 8 in a row. His team is now kind of a Frankenstein monster, boasting arguably the league's best combination at both running back and quarterback. So barring any sort of major injury or shocker, I don't know, Ariel appears destined for the postseason. All right, time to open up the old mailbag. A little early for the mailbag, but let's see. First entry. Are you going to read my whole email verbatim? Not sure why you always do that. Rubber baby buggy bumpers. Rubber baby buggy bumpers. I just want to call out that Trent Richardson left the game on Sunday with an injured flank. What the fuck is a flank? Where is that on the body? I believe a flank steak is the same as a butt steak, i.e. steer ass. Can you check this? Did T-Rich hurt his cute little bottom? Also, more broadly, are we comfortable using animal parts to refer to football player parts? Well, it's coming from Ben. A flank, as we all know from eating at steakhouses, is the general description of the long muscle that extends down your rib cage to your hip. Richardson's flank was obviously injured as Bengals defensive tackle Geno Atkins saw a chance to enjoy some nice flank steak mid-game and clearly brought a fork and some A1 sauce onto the field with him. My tradition of reading emails verbatim is because I want to disassociate myself with any and all grammatical or vocabulary issues. As we all know, Plotzker ranks those very closely, and so I just want to make sure that if anyone writes into the podcast and misspells something or does something stupidly, that they are thusly blamed. And then, Ben, your question about using animal parts to refer to football player parts is an obvious answer. I mean, yes, we already do that. We have the horse collar tackle, the dog pile, and the Charles Tillman donkey punch. All right, next question, Brad. We with all of the action going on, teams mortgaging their futures and all, what do you think about the prospects of including some prize for team of the half decade or something of that sort? Provide additional incentive not to sell out, and also would be the ultimate prize of who managed their team the best. We can make some criteria as a group, come up with a pretty sweet prize. First idea: group trip to Vegas, accommodations and flight for the winner paid by the league. Please discuss. Look forward to hearing your answers. Sincerely, the should be number one team in the power rankings, Team Aces. Well, my apologies for not being number one, Brian, but I hope you take a 10-spot jump to number two pretty well. Obviously you did a lot to improve your team, but I couldn't rank you over Ariel. We'll find out this week. You guys play each other. So I don't know, it's a very interesting concept. Actually, kind of an interesting wake-up call is next season actually is the 5th-year anniversary of the Coolrophobics Anonymous. I think announcing a team of the half decade is a great move. It'll be added to the 2013 awards docket. We can solicit ideas for a prize at a later date, but I think it's a good call. More importantly, I think you raise an interesting issue with sort of the basis for the whole idea. We've been doing this league for a long time. Obviously, the circumstances may change, but I know I plan on maintaining my position in this league for many years to come. It's vital that we continue to enjoy what we're doing here and not overreact to everything that happens. I speak obviously specifically about this Kraus, Maurice Jones-Drew, Murray, Justin trade. This will not ruin our league, as some have stated. I think we all know the circumstances that took place. We'll put rules in place that prevent this from abuse from happening again. I love long-winded emails about football and poor lineup decisions and many other things, but I'm really beginning to just detest these long-winded, policy-driven emails about what is and is not in the Constitution or what's right and what's a slippery slope, and it's just so stupid, and I'm finding it to be a massive waste of time. So I don't know. Let's all just sit back and relax, enjoy the league for what it's worth. I'm currently actually in debate with all my friends that do this fantasy basketball league for the past 4 years. The debate is whether or not I'm going to do it this year. I'm trying to back out of it. It's just totally lame. We get together for the draft once a year, maybe send out one shit-talking email before week one, and then people collect their payouts at the end. There's really not much else going on. Our league is a social club that we all pay entry for. It's a massive source of joy and friendly interaction in each of our lives. We have Sunday watch parties. We have hourly email chains. So I don't know, let's just leave the politics alone, sort of gear up for the second half of the year. Believe it or not, we are actually halfway through the season. So, all right, preview. Looking forward to next week. And obviously, the biggest matchup of the week, biggest matchup of the season, pretty much to this point. Ariel versus Deutsch. Ariel's got Arian Foster going against the Ravens without Ray Lewis. He's got Adrian Peterson at home against the Cardinals, and then he's also got RG3 against the G-Men. Deutsch has Cam Newton going against the Cowboys, and then also Aaron Rodgers against the Rams. Also, it should be noted before we call it a day that Deutsch pulled a Babe Ruth and called his shot for next week. I read you an excerpt from a G-Chat conversation. Deutsch at 3:29 p.m. says, "By the way, I'm calling my shot. I will set the all-time points record next week. Crazy call, but I'm going with it." So there's your confirmation right there. The all-time high points record, just for your reference, is 167.5, set by Ted last season. Deutsch's team will have some good matchups, but I don't know if he's got 165 points ready to go. Time will tell. So before we leave you, I actually do have a message from Jason Plotzker. A little earlier in the year, we had a call to add some additional segments to the show, and so this is a little segment I like to call Jason Plotzker's Life Lessons.
Twinkle, twinkle, fellow Coolrophobics. I am here tonight to share with you some very valuable life lessons I have learned over the years, and hopefully they can help you too. Lesson 1. When courting a young lady, a gentleman shows restraint. Treat her with respect and only kisses her if the moment is right. But being a gentleman will only lead you to your dick in your hand at the end of the night. Your goal is to touch her fun parts, get in, and get out. Hard to the hoop. Lesson 2. I have never in my life trusted any individual under 5 feet tall, and neither should you. Lesson 3. Blue Streak is the greatest movie ever made. Lesson 4. Never start a fight with an Asian. Chances are they are Eskimo brothers of Denneberg, and that's gross. Also, every Asian knows martial arts. And finally, Lesson 5. When I'm driving my car, I'm irritated by pedestrians, and when I'm walking, I'm irritated by motorists. But either way, I hate every pussy faggot on a bicycle. Tengo el gato los pantalones, and I'm out.
Excellent work, Jason. Thank you very much. Thanks for listening to the podcast, guys. Have a good week, and good luck on Sunday.